I heard an interview of Bill Bernstein who indicated planning next 50 years based on returns in the US from 75 to 25 is nuts. I agree, but see folks use these historical returns all the time. Your view? Would you two participate in a tontine of members of your firm or of similar age?
Okay, so yeah, those are
Who's
two
asking?
completely different questions that were
Yeah,
bundled
yeah, yeah,
together.
yeah. Why
So
don't you do
the
the tontine one just to finish that concept, and we
so
get
the
into the next one.
so with the Tontine one, if you mean literally
This
the
is not a
firm we work
pyramid.
at, we're too small. You need to rely on the law of large numbers. You probably, for a large company, you're at least going to have several hundred, if not more, employees that are part of the Tontine. I think you really need that kind of size. If you just have 10 people getting together and creating a Tontine, uh, I would be a little cautious about that, just because the risk of there's too few people to really have a good sense of what the mortality distribution would look like. And then
Should he
we're losing the anonymity of the. I know Alex is in the pool, so.
should he happen to be hit with a bolt of lightning? I will remember. Remember in the Godfather, when he brings Michael back from Sicily, he tells the whole table of the families, "Shall he be hit with a bolt of lightning? I will blame somebody in this room." So I'm watching you, Wade.
So yeah, then with the other part of the question, William Bernstein indicating that basing market assumptions for the next 50 years on the past 50 years is
I, I
quote
think
unquote
the
nuts.
I think the question here is: do you use historical returns versus expected kind of returns, and what does that mean? That's the way, because you can always pick whatever years and this and that. Then, Wade, you want to maybe go into how you use a build-up model when you're doing your assumptions?
Well,
And this is something that, I mean, we talk about this almost at every investment committee meeting at nauseum. It's almost like opening remarks
yeah,
kind
and
of
the
thing.
thing that drives me nuts, like if the market has a really good year, that's going to push up the historical average returns. And if you're just plugging those into the model, then you've got a higher expected return for the future. But yeah, generally speaking, like when we created the funded ratio tool where we don't have to worry about forecasting a stock market return. We just look at whether the plan can work without taking financial market risk. And then the way I like to think about, well, if you're going to simulate a stock market return, you add some sort of risk premium to to your bond yield.
What does risk premium mean?
The expected outperformance of stocks over bonds in your planning model, which historically, though it's nuts we're saying in this question, but historically, large cap US stocks have outperformed long term US government bonds by about 6% a year on average, but with a 20% volatility. Now, then, if you do run a Monte Carlo simulation on that, usually people are targeting a high probability of success, which implicitly means they're assuming a lower rate of return because the return has to be low enough that 90% of the time you end up with something better. So I don't necessarily, I wouldn't call it nuts to do that. I think it's a reasonable way to look at things. But yeah, certainly I wouldn't want to plug in, I don't want to take the average historical return, assume you're going to get that every year and plug that into a spreadsheet. I would say that's nuts. But if you're doing that more in a Monte Carlo type setting, I don't necessarily object to it as much. But then again, I don't even necessarily think you need to do that kind of Monte Carlo based planning model. Just look at something like the funded ratio where you assume a low conservative rate of return and see if the plan can work in that context.